I want to talk about technologies and sciences that exist, but the public, or namely me, at the previous time had very little clue that such a situation or such a technology or science could even exist. Anyhow, the Sufi master said in one of his lectures that every science and every technology and every kind of phenomena that you can imagine, it's all out there. Somebody or some creature or some ET already invented it and already has it. But just that if you want to hook up with this technology or with these creatures, you have to kind of connect. Like he meant, like through meditation, to see that these things really exist. Well, I'm a fan of a lot of these weird UFO videos and literature, and I've been going through a lot of this stuff, ancient aliens, and I just want to mention a few things that I think they're very weird, but and they're also totally in our faces. That I suspect that they exist, or they were part of the human history, or they come and go, and we could later on find out about them. Well, I was reading this article by the Chinese news agencies. It was talking about this robot. I think they call it Chang, and they had and this robot had two portions. One that was circling the moon, and then the other part was like a robot that went and sat on the face of the moon. I don't think they're releasing any of the videos or anything that really has much value to a UFO hunter. But I think the Chinese, they know a lot more than they're letting it be known. And there is a very good reasons for this. Well, what they were saying is that they discovered that there was no like subsequent Apollo landings. I think there was only a few Apollo landings, like two or three, or maybe four, and then the rest of them, they were faked. They made in the movie studio, because they went out there and they were looking at where the remaining platform for these landings would be, and they didn't find anything there. And then they came out other reports that there were some, but then there wasn't other ones. Well, there was a anomaly video that was showing that one of the astronauts was saying that we went to the moon, but we were chased away, because there is somebody else already there. There is like aliens or creatures that are already there. Well, I was listening to Cliff High, and he was saying that actually moon is like a spaceship. It's hollow, and it was dragged into the Earth's orbit and was placed there specifically. But now those original creatures or aliens that brought it there, they have gone away, or they're extinct. And the aliens that we have on the moon, they're more like squatters from other parts of the galaxy, and there's more than a few of them. They're different races, and but there's so many anomaly videos on the moon. All this stuff, unbelievable. I was also watching a lot of anomaly videos about Mars, and unbelievable the amount of stuff that they have. I think that there are Martians, there are creatures that are there, but one reason I think that the American government, or maybe Chinese, I don't know, they they don't want to disclose this stuff is because of their sense of inferiority, that the same feeling that the astronauts, they were chased away from the moon because our technology in comparison to what these creatures have is like some kind of tools that the ants made, and they know that they're going to get their asses kicked if they don't listen. And there's also a lot of research that deals with Admiral Byrd's trip to Antarctica, and I guess they try to suppress that stuff. Some of it is coming out, but there's a lot of stuff that's very weird. While I was talking about the relationship between electromagnetism and gravity, a lot of this literature talks about electrogravity, that electromagnetism can be manipulated to provide anti-gravity, something like that. And there's some articles on Wikipedia about this. But then there is other stuff that's also very strange. Well, the planet Earth itself is like a huge magnet, because there is molten iron and nickel. It has a strong magnetic field, and then what I think that the Admiral Byrd was saying is that there was a location on the, I don't know, I have to check it was North or South Pole, that is just like where this actual North Pole, the magnetic North Pole is. And he was saying that there is a location where there is all these lights, and then he was saying that actually there is time link between different era between human history, and that the UFOs were coming from a future of humanity. But there is a lot of literature or babble about this, that a lot of these aliens, they're not from other planets. They're not from outside of our solar system. They're actually from our own future. The Bob Lazar was talking about that there is different kinds of aliens. Some are called P-54 and P-44 or P-48, that they are 48,000 years in our human history, and then there is the Greys. They are from different timelines. By that timeline, a lot of these aliens are saying that there will be some kind of nuclear holocaust here on the planet, and then these creatures were the survivors, and they had to do all this stuff to be able to survive, and that's why their makeup is so different. Some other literature was saying that the stuff that you see on the moon and on Mars, they were actually made by humans, but now are humans, but they were from the future, like from the Greys. Well, the stuff that's on the Mars, the anomalies, there's a lot of pyramid shapes, and then they resemble the pyramids on the planet Earth, but the pyramids that are very old. So these all point to technologies or sciences that are way out of our reach, but they exist in some form. Well, there was one that was very interesting, that was saying that the UFOs, they're using the North Pole or some locations in space as a jump station, like where the electrogravity gives rise to time dislocation, something like that. Well, there was another movie, was Escape from Planet of Apes. It talks about these phenomena. I think they exist in some form. Another reason for all this suppression by the governments is their feelings that they are not really that important. Especially American government tried very heavily to suppress these discoveries because they know that technologically or spiritually they are like a very backward kind of civilization, and the universe doesn't really want them. I think that in the World War II and later on, the Americans and the communist Russia, they were shooting at the UFO to try to capture some of these technologies. But if we imagine that the technology that and sciences that we have right now in progress, not 100 years but thousands of years, then the kind of stuff that we would be able to accomplish would be so outrageous that kind of resembles what we see on the moon or on Mars. Another idea that I keep seeing is that a lot of these researchers are saying that the moon is hollow or the earth is hollow, and I think there was a snippet of a report saying that there is a way that some spacecraft could travel through space-time, which means, like, say for example, if an aircraft tried to travel through the space into the interior of the Earth, it will crash, it will be blocked. But if there is a technology that it could disconnect from the universe, it could disconnect from space-time itself, okay? So actually what they're saying is that space-time would become like a putty or some kind of medium that's like you can travel through it with the spacecraft. And this was also mentioned in some of the effects in Philadelphia experiment, that the sailors were embedded in the walls, or the whole ship was bent. It's because the electromagnetic, strong electromagnetic waves gave rise to these gravitic or electrogravitic effects, or some parts of the space-time was dislocated or bent or moved around, and when the electromagnetic waves stopped, the ship was left like that. What some of the other researchers are saying, and this is very weird, it's almost unbelievable, is that some ships would go into the interior of the Earth and remove a whole bunch of these space-time that's inside the large regions of the core, and then move them out of the planet, and then they would go back in, and that would be like an entire environment to them. This idea comes out about the stuff that's on the Mars, that many researchers are saying that there is cities inside the mantle of the Mars, or they're underground cities, and now they're saying that this existed on the Earth too, or does exist. Well, I saw some other research saying that Venus was a moon of a brown dwarf, and then when it was the brown dwarf exploded and exited the solar system, the inhabitants, they did something like this. They went under the mantle, and this stuff is so weird. I mean, I don't believe half the stuff that I'm reading, but some other ones, they do make some kind of scientific sense, that there is an effect that's called electrogravity, that the electromagnetism and gravity are tied, and does give rise to time dilation, or link to different times. It could be related phenomena, but right now, from my studies, all this stuff seems to be very theoretical. That like a physicist could say, hey, these ideas, these effects could exist right now at this point. But also, a lot of this babble or literature kind of points to the fact that there is abundance of intelligent life in the universe. It's not just confined to here or Mars, and that also that we are not special in any way. In fact, our civilization could be something very primitive. Some researchers are saying that we actually live on the ruins of more advanced civilizations that existed in the solar system and was very sophisticated. We are just the poverty-stricken descendants, something like that. This stuff is very interesting, and is also worth studying. Might at a later point become our new technologies. What I think will happen is that the Western governments, like United States or Britain or even China, they'll go bankrupt. They will go belly up, or they'll lose. I'm not talking about China. I'm talking about United States or Israel. They lose a major world war, major conflict, and then the other guys, whoever, Russian or Persian or whoever, gets hold of these research or technologies that were